Recovery is stupendous.
Achievable.
Hope.
Freedom.
Empowering.
It's unique to everyone.
It's a journey, not a destination.
Getting a new lease on life.
It's finding restoration after you fall down.
Recovery is having the freedom to enjoy life.
For me, it was finding a way to really love myself.
My recovery is possible in part because of my own sense of purpose.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Recovery Talks podcast. I'm Andy Daniel, social media coordinator with MPN, and I'm here with Lawrence Rhone. He's a U.S. Army Disabled American Veteran and an Office of General Counsel Federally Accredited Veterans Advocate and the founder of Rhone Farm and Retreat. Welcome, Lawrence.
Thank you.
Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am a U.S. Army veteran, as you alluded to in your intro, and I served in the United States Army from 1980 to 1991. I'm a Gulf War era veteran, and I am also a federally accredited veterans advocate, and in doing that, I found that there's a need to address some of the issues that I encountered in transitioning from active duty to civilian life, and we've sort of taken that approach at making our lives work now in our adult years of life. Not the sunset, but I would say in the evening of our life and giving back to the community and our clients. We being warriors, which addresses veterans of all services, active, inactive, combat or non-combat related veterans who would understand if you have a DD Form 214, that's what we specialize in, but we realize that you can't help these groups without addressing community as well and the challenges of that.
So can you tell me a little bit about the Farm and Retreat that you founded?
Yes. The Farm and Retreat, we founded in 2016, and the goal was to have a veteran solution resource in transitioning from active duty or active service to civilian life. We work with a number of government entities to facilitate that transition. One of them is the NCAT, which is the National Center for Appropriate Technology, because our solution is one that is oriented toward farming and ranching. And what we want to do is provide mentorship for former service members who we deem as warriors in navigating their transition from the battlefield or active service to a farm or ranch setting.
And why did you feel like it was important to get involved in something like this, or why did you want to start this retreat?
Because as a young man transitioning from service, I found that it took me about 5 years to reorient myself, if you will, from active duty and the mindset and the practices, the muscle memory of active duty and the challenges and experiences that I had there, and figure out a way to use the skill sets that I acquired in service, and I acquired quite a few, how to translate them to civilian life and function and thrive in a civilian setting as I did in the military. And when you're young and spend at that time a considerable part of your life in doing something, I entered service at the age of 17, exited at the age of 30 years of age. Yeah, it's a challenge. And I know that warriors experience that now, and if you don't make a structured effort at addressing those challenges, it becomes a burden, and it then translates to pain at some point. That pain then translates to suffering, and then you look for coping mechanisms. And those coping mechanisms aren't always something that is conducive to a warrior's well-being.
So tell me a little bit about the specific services or skills that veterans learn when they're with you.
What we try to do is introduce warriors or community members to the essential skill sets that are needed in the farm or ranch setting. We provide them with the opportunity to use their foundational skill set which is to assess, adapt, and overcome challenges in the service. Well, on the farm, we identify those same type skill set opportunities in the ranch and farm setting and introduce those to them. Some of the things that we try to introduce them to are woodworking, metalwork, be it welding or blacksmithing, operating farm equipment, be it tractor or semi, trucks, pulling a cattle trailer. We introduce to them what it is to work with livestock. And then the other thing is to really concentrate on their mission-oriented mindset and how it identifies or affords them an advantage in the farm setting, because the farm is full of different projects you have to complete. If you translate that for the warrior, it's a mission. And you're able to do that. And then probably the biggest tool that we provide is the one of farming, growing something. We specialize in growing trees and shrubs of different types. In 2016, we planted 1,200 trees here to create our conservation-oriented environment for the warriors and our clients. And it consists of all different types of fruit trees, 900 in total. We have a small apple orchard of 30 trees as well. And then this year, as we're finishing up our infrastructure, we also have a high tunnel environment in which we can teach the farming process of growing whole foods. And we think providing those array of skill sets, at some point, one of our clients or a warrior attending our event or seminar can identify themselves or an activity that they can identify with and thrive in as they leave us, and we mentor them through doing that in their own home environment.
About how many warriors have you served over the years?
Wow, that's hard to estimate because we've touched a lot of lives. I would say actively right now we are servicing, I think the last count on our database is 78, and that's regionally here in the state of Montana, and then a couple out of western Montana, North Dakota, and we have a couple, one in Idaho. But our focus is on serving those warriors, but also our community. So if you add the community into it, our community we try to impact by introducing and identifying the warriors in there. And this is a unique layer of our social setting, which are the age veterans and I'm talking World War II, Korean War, Vietnam War era veterans. There are a lot of them too that can relate to this transition I'm talking about and never did really address the challenges that they had in that way, but they identify with what we're doing. So I would say that our impact currently is probably in the range of 150 to 160 people.
Great. Now, do the warriors live on the ranch there with you for a period of time, or how does that work?
This is an introduction to opportunities for solutions to transitioning. So the goal is to bring the warrior in or our client, it could be a community member or someone in recovery as well, introduce them in a 9-day program, 8 to 9-day program. So you have the travel day in, you have the introduction to the activities, and on that 8th day, 9th day, then the travel day out. But in that period, in the curriculum, we try to help the warrior, first of all, we introduce ourselves and our activities. Then we try to identify through our recruiting process and screening process what areas are going to be of the greatest interest to whoever we have attending. We try to keep the groups small in nature, 5, 1-on-5, or 2-on-10. That is the facilitator and a facilitator's or a presenter of some type. And then a group of 5, because we don't just limit it to the veteran or the warrior or the client. We want their spouse to be introduced to these opportunities as well, because if you don't approach it from that aspect, they don't have someone that can see or understand what it is that they were introduced to here.
Wonderful. So where are you located?
We're located in the northeast corner of Montana. It's a small town called Flaxville. Our population, I think, currently is just under 80 people. Our population density is 1.2 people per square mile in our county of Daniels County. And yeah, we're on a small 10-acre farm, and we've transitioned it into a conservation-oriented setting that is conducive to healing and growth, physically, mentally as well.
Can you talk a little bit about that conservation piece, what you mean by that?
Part of the holistic approach to getting a direction or finding yourself is you need to find 3 core things that we like to address. And I haven't mentioned this at any point of our conversation yet, but the cornerstone of everything we do is to fight the elephant in the room that isn't spoken about often, and that is suicide. Suicide prevention is the cornerstone of all the activity we do. So we try to address the warriors or the client's sense of self-worth, sense of purpose, and sense of community. So we believe that if you address the 3 R's, and we deem them as respecting yourself, respecting your fellow man or your neighbor, and then respecting your environment, that can give you this balance where you have a sense of purpose. And in conservation, and we work with the local NRCS and FSA and I should say that's the Farm Service Agency, the Natural Resources and Conservation District, and the DNRC, which is the state entity that also addresses conservation. We work to develop a oasis, if you will, for wildlife of all types. And the only way you can do that is by establishing an ecosystem or supporting an ecosystem that provides the wildlife a place to reside and come for resources, food and water and quiet, so that it can thrive. And that's the same concept that we want to provide to warriors as well. So we took on this abandoned farm, and we removed approximately 50 tons of scrap metal, and with the help of our neighbors, we were able to clean up the farm and then plant 1,200 trees and shrubs that are native to Montana and provide the wildlife in our region this oasis to which they can come and feed and multiply. So it is not uncommon for deer to come and have their young, or antelope, or all types of bird species, and it doesn't rule out that the raccoons and the skunks come as well, and even a badger or so. So it's a true ecosystem dedicated, or we support through our conservation efforts of growing trees and cultivating the environment that those trees grow in, and providing a balance, a nature's balance in the middle of this huge farming area. And I'm talking tens of thousands of acres. And we want to just address the fact that because we farm so much in this region, it is necessary for someone to focus on, giving back to that ecosystem, and that's what we do here.
What has been the most challenging thing about developing this retreat or keeping things running, or just tell me a little bit about the challenges that you've faced?
I can tell you probably the greatest challenge, and not probably, it is arguably the greatest challenge, is finding the resource financially in doing this, because I came out to this region. I'm originally from North Carolina, and I came up here in the big oil boom. I worked in the oil field, was able to do quite a bit, but I've since retired from that in 2015. And all of these things I'm talking about take a great amount of resource. And I'm retired, and I don't have the earning capacity that I had when I was working. And now this volunteer work and this giving back, finding funding to fund an opportunity for people in need of healing is quite the challenge. So that's probably the greatest challenge. The people that want to participate in a project like this are numerous, especially in our community. And I think that people will find that in any and every community, there is a niche to be able to create something like this. Maybe not so much in a densely populated urban setting, but for sure in a rural and frontier setting like ours.
On the flip side of that, can you tell me some of your biggest successes, either as you personally or with clients and warriors that you've worked with?
I have to say the greatest successes that we've had for me are the lives we've been able to positively impact in helping people find themselves, or warriors, and not only warriors, but community members as well, find themselves, help them through tough spots. And to be specific, we had a young warrior that we were made aware of. That warrior was not from this area. So this was one of the cases that we said, so we don't have our infrastructure in place yet, but we want to help warriors that are challenged. And this young warrior had a vicious battle with suicide and won because he was still here with us. And we took him in. We brought him to this farm ranch setting for a week and a half, 2 weeks, got him oriented on the things that he should be oriented towards. We then set up his health care through the VA. We set up his resources for all of the things that he needed for his personal care and mental hygiene. And then we looked out and found the opportunities for housing, and then a support network for him within the community so that he could then move into the community and begin to attempt to function on his own. So that's one. The other specific example I would take would be the fact that we also, along with the Farm Retreat, we do advocacy, and that's our other sister entity, which is Rhone's Warrior and Community Resources. And in that, we work in our Community Resources Center to serve the community and the warriors in it. And you run into a lot of different challenging situations when you do that. And some of them are as simple as helping a senior navigate the fact that, my husband has to go into a nursing home, and we don't have the means to do that. We don't have long-term care insurance. Well, then the question is asked, is your husband a veteran? Yes, but he was only in a couple of years, and we don't have any paperwork or anything. So we help that veteran and spouse navigate that process by going to the National Archives, retrieving his records, finding out that he did serve and that he was eligible for service-connected compensation, establish that compensation, and then hence the ability to provide additional income and health care to that veteran, and then hence the ability to be in a nursing home setting without it devastating spouse and leaving the spouse without resources as well. So those type stories are realities of what we've done. And then probably our greatest achievement in community and in this setting is the fact that we've been able to establish an annual event through which we connect warriors and community one day out of the year, and it's called Daniels County Day of Service. And last year we had 160 people attend that event, and we had 5 community company sponsors or corporate sponsors. This year's event has not taken place yet. It's been postponed because of our virus challenges. But this year, it was really rewarding to see that we went from 5 corporate sponsors to 19 corporate sponsors for our event this year. And in that event, we do things such as introduce warriors to the benefits that are offered and the entities that offer services to veterans, like the Veterans Meat Locker provided 12 pounds of meat to every veteran that attended last year, and that number was 57 veterans. The next thing we did was provided a meal to everyone that attended. We provided suicide prevention training in the form of QPR, which is question, persuade, and refer. And we trained 70 individuals in the community. Among them were numerous veterans as well. And then we also provided the community an opportunity to express their gratitude for the service that those warriors provided in their service in the form of a minted challenge coin to every veteran in attendance. And it was a tremendous accomplishment, and probably the greatest part of it is that those veterans had the opportunity of receiving those expressions of gratitude, not only from their community, but from each of our elected representatives, Congressman Gianforte, Senator Dane, Senator Tester, and Governor Bullock.
Wonderful. Is there anything else you'd like to share with the audience?
If in the future you want to know more about what we do, we have our webpage, and it's Rhone Farm and Retreat.com, and it's an introduction to what we're doing and how we're doing it. And I'd say always look for an opportunity, even if it's just to say thank you to someone that you know has served, and it doesn't matter if they served in World War II or if they served and served yesterday or if they're currently serving. A thank you, a heartfelt thank you, sincere thank you goes a long way to supporting that warrior's sense of self-worth, sense of purpose, and sense of community.
That's wonderful. It's been great talking to you today, Lawrence. I will include links to your webpage in the description of this podcast, so if anybody's interested in finding out more, they can do that. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us for another Recovery Talks podcast. If you'd like to be a guest on one of our podcasts, you can send me an email at Andi, A-N-D-I, at mtpeernetwork.org.
Recovery works and recovery is possible.
Recovery works and recovery is possible.
Recovery works, recovery is possible.
Recovery is possible.
Recovery works and recovery is possible.
Recovery works and recovery is possible.
Recovery works and recovery is possible.
Recovery is possible.